Good evening and welcome to tonight's City of Burnside Council meeting of May the 28th. The last one of our fortnightly meetings. Our next meeting for those at home will be on June the 18th. Please stand if you are able and remain silent during the acknowledgements. We acknowledge the land we meet on today as traditional land of the Kaurna people and that we respect their spiritual relationship with their country. We also acknowledge the Kaurna people as the original custodians of the Adelaide region and that the cultural and heritage beliefs are still important to the Kaurna people today. We welcome any other First Nations people joining our meeting tonight. On behalf of the City of Burnside, I gratefully acknowledge and pay respect to all those who have sacrificed their lives for this country and its people. We also consider in our thoughts all those who today are being affected by war around the globe, and especially those in Ukraine and in the Middle East. We seek guidance in our debate as we make decisions that will impact on the lives of all who reside, study, work in or visit the City of Burnside. Grant us wisdom as we serve our community. Please be seated. Just some reminders. To not use your mobile phones, turn off your microphone when you finish speaking, and be respectful of the speaker so they can be heard appropriately. And now to the agenda. Have no deputations, but 9 reports and 1 motion on notice to consider. You should have all received all of the answers to your questions on notice already. We have 1 apology this evening, and that is from Councillor Jennings, who is ill. Declaration of interest reminder. You do that just prior to the actual motion or agenda item, so we don't need to receive them now. Confirmation of minutes. I seek a mover. Councillor Cornish. Seconded Councillor Henschke. All those in favour? Against? Carried. There's no adjourned business, no public presentations. There are no deputations, but there is a petition. I seek a mover to receive the petition. Councillor Cornish moved it and Councillor Zing seconded. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Now we move to the reports, and I will seek those who wish to withdraw them for debate. 11.1, minutes of the CEO committee. If not, I require a mover. Councillor Dawes, you're moving. Seconded Councillor Zing. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Review of delegations. Councillor Hallett, are you moving that? Sorry. Okay. Someone to move that? Councillor Cornish. Seconded by Councillor Zing. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Next one is Penfold Road and Stonyfell Road intersection traffic investigation. Councillor Dawes, you wish to withdraw it, I believe. 11.4, Beulah Park and Kensington Park localised traffic management. Councillor Zing, you wish to withdraw it?
I do, yep.
Finance end of the month report for April 2024. Seek a mover, if no one wishes to withdraw it. Councillor Turnbull, you moving it?
Moving it, thank you.
Seconded by Councillor Davey. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Council Member Behavioural Support Policy. Councillor Harvey, are you withdrawing it?
Yes, thank you.
Seconded by... Oh no, we don't do that now. Harvey. Reappointment of members of the Brownhill Creek and Keswick Creek Stormwater Board. Councillor Turnbull, you wish to withdraw it?
Yes, please.
Oh.
Reappointment of to the Burnside War Memorial Hospital Board of Directors. Councillor Davey, are you moving it?
Yes,
or do you wish to withdraw?
No, I'm happy to move that.
Happy to move it? I need a seconder then. Councillor Zing. All those in favour?
Can I withdraw?
Sorry?
Can I withdraw then?
No, it's too late. It's already been moved and seconded.
No.
Sorry?
You want...
Governance, please. I'm not being the umpire.
You asked Jane if she wanted to withdraw it. It didn't give anybody else a chance to withdraw it.
No,
when
she
said
already.
She didn't want to.
But her name was already up here, and then it was a second
Okay, we'll
already.
have a
then.
rescission motion. I'll write it now.
Could I get some advice, please, from governance? I'm happy to move it if Councillor Davies withdraws. Okay. Yeah. So, Councillor Davey, you're happy to withdraw your move of the motion and allow Councillor Jones to withdraw it for debate. And are you all right with that? I can't remember who the seconder was. Councillor Zing, you okay with that? Thank you. Mayor's activity report. Seeker mover, Councillor Cornish, seconded by Councillor Hallett. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Chief Executive Officer's report. Councillor Davey, you wish to withdraw it?
Thank you, Mayor.
Right, we move back to page 6. No, page 804. Penfold Road and Stonyfield Road intersection traffic investigation. Councillor Dawes.
Thank you, Mayor. Look, first of all, there's an alternative motion which will come up on your screen shortly. I'm sure Helen's onto it.
I'll ask you to start reading it anyway, Councillor Dawes.
Okay.
Because it is completely different from the...
Well, it is different in two ways, but I haven't I haven't got it. I have to go to another email to read it out. So if she could, yeah. Oh, here it is. All right. Thank you, CEO. Now, 1 and 2 are the same as per the recommendation. There's no change to 1 and 2. Number 2 becomes number 4, and there's a number 2 and number 3. Now, we've been working, Councillor Turnbull and I have been working with administration, in particular James Brennan, on just making this recommendation a bit stronger. So, number 2 is writes a letter to Borrell, and you can see it there, requesting consideration of a future funding commitment to a capital upgrade of the Penfold Road and Stonyfield Road intersection, which could include options 1, 2 or 3, and B, increase maintenance and cleaning of its heavy fleet to alleviate the impact of quarry dust on the local community. So that's brand new. Number 3 is also brand new. Receives a report detailing the existing indoors development of traffic precinct plans across the city and their current proposed timelines, with consideration, this is the important part, with consideration to be given to complete Stonyfield within 2 to 3 years. Previously it was 5+ years, subject to council approval and funding being available through a future annual business plan and budget process. So that's 2 and 3 are new, you haven't seen those before. I apologise for the late notice, but it only came up late this afternoon to finalise that. And number 4 was defers consideration of further intersection upgrades until the traffic precinct plan for Stonyfield has been developed. So that's no change. Does my time start now? Or it does start now, thank you, Martin. So, sorry, I'll leave it to you, CEO. The issue here, you might remember, we did ask some time ago for a consultant to give us a report. You've got the consultant's report in your agenda papers. Now, I have to say that some of our residents who have seen that report aren't necessarily happy with it. They prefer to have something done now. And the problem that we've always had is if we do something in one suburb, how does it affect the other streets in that suburb? Right, it's always been an issue. So that's why we put into the motion, into the alternative motion, that we do need to have an overall Stonyfield management plan, and we don't want 5+ years. We need to have it in 2 to 3 years, in accordance with what this motion is saying. Now, as you know, Stonyfield has become a rat-running paradise because people are trying to avoid every possible traffic light there is, as people in your own suburbs would know. So if you look at the figures, it's very interesting for me, like the number of vehicles who are using this part of Stonyfield is quite amazing. In fact, if you look at the Stonyfield Road numbers, that cars, 54 kilometres an hour or over, there are 135 vehicles per day. They're going over the speed limit. at which the police could catch you on. So you can sense that there is also a speeding problem as well as a rat running problem. There's also, as you know, I think, unfortunately, Councillor Jennings is not here today, but when we talked about this last time, he was talking about how steep it is. He didn't realise how steep that intersection is. It's a very, very hilly area. And we've got trees in the middle of the road as well, up Penfold Road South. So it is an area that we need to look at very, very carefully. The other problem we have also is the amount of trucks from Boral that are using that area, so it's a very slippery intersection area. Now, you'd probably be amazed at the amount of money that it would cost to put a roundabout in, and is it made of gold, you say, or whatever? But, you know, I do understand there's a lot of underground works involved with that. So, you know, we're not saying that needs to happen now, although I think some of our residents would like it to happen now. We do need to have this as part of an overall strategic plan for traffic. But what we are saying, and that's an important part, in number one, which we've forgotten to mention, it is saying that we do need to upgrade the line marking, because at the moment it is pretty miserable because of the amount of traffic there, and we need to increase the signage for that area. So we've only had one accident over the 5 years, thank heavens for that, but I can sense that this area is going to be a target for future rat running and speeding as the years go by. So there's a review for you. Happy to answer any questions from the floor when it comes up.
Seek a seconder. Councillor Turnbull, do you wish to speak now?
I'll reserve my right, thank you.
Councillor Davey.
I have a question, if I may. Through you to the CEO. Do we know the lifespan of Boral and its operations and the quarrying lifespan there?
Through Madam Mayor, we don't know ultimately the lifespan. I just remember a conversation or a presentation that Minister Koutsantonis gave maybe 2 years ago, and I estimate that it was somewhere between 40 and 80 years. So it's certainly long into the future.
Councillor Jones.
Can I ask a question, please? If this is being brought forward, something else must be being pushed back. So what's being pushed back, and why was this flagged as being in the 5+ year bucket?
Through Madam Mayor, I might refer that to Mr. Kent.
Through your worship, you'll recall that the City Master Plan was adopted by Council in August 2022. At that point, Council endorsed the following priority suburbs for the short-term priority for the traffic precinct plans, which was Dulwich, Rose Park and Toorak Gardens, including Stewart Road and Dulwich Village. The next suburbs off the rank, which was the short-term priority within 2 years, was Frueville and Glenunga, with medium-term priority for the traffic study of Bewlett Park and Kensington Park. Every other suburb then was long-term priority, as identified through the study through the City Master Plan. Noting, though, that the priority areas for traffic management planning would be based on current traffic volumes and speed evidence data. When we were working with the ward councillors today, because some of the residents are keen to bring this forward, we are also cognizant that we can't do everything all at once, and that's why we set the priorities there. That's why we've recommended bringing back a report that would actually talk about the impact of bringing this forward and what that would mean for the rest of the city.
Councillor Wilkin.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Can I just ask a question? Was there any consideration by Boral that they might actually contribute to this upgrade by any chance, seeing they're the principal reason why this needs to be done? And if it's going to be an operational quarry for the next X number of years, maybe they could actually contribute to the restoration of a safe road surface and an improved facility for all traffic.
Through Madam Mayor, I'll just get Mr. Kent to comment on whether there have been any conversations with Boral about this one.
Through your worship, no specific conversations have occurred with Borough at this stage because the council resolution called us to do a review of the existing traffic conditions, and that's the independent consultant's report has provided you with options that you can look at that. However, the motion that's in front of you just now, I believe it's part 2A, requests us to actually have specifically those conversations with Borough with respect to capital funding.
Thank you.
Councillor Davey, you have another question or
Thank
wish
you,
to
Mayor.
speak?
No, I'd like to make a comment. I'm very sympathetic to this amendment. I visited the intersection and I was absolutely amazed at the amount of dust on the intersection and the fact that there's no markings, and I wondered how slippery it is as you come down that hill. I don't know whether rain and the wet weather we hope's coming will affect it as well, but I think we do. I'm amazed with the conditions that are there that we haven't had more crash incidents at the site. So I'm sympathetic to this, that we actually, and I would like to see Borough contribute as well to, they're obviously polluting the road and making it really quite unsafe in terms of the risks of the area, so I'm happy to support it.
Councillor Henschke.
Thank you, Mayor. A question for the administration. 2B reads an increase of maintenance and cleaning of its heavy fleet. What is the role of the EPA in the licence of the quarry? Isn't there an obligation on the EPA as an agency to enforce this, not council, in the first instance?
Through Madam Mayor, I don't know the complete answer, but I certainly am aware that EPA do have requirements about the amount of drag out or mud or dirt that comes out of the quarry and impacts on the road surface, particularly as it pertains to runoff into the creek. So I think whatever we say here, it won't overrule the responsibilities of the EPA, but I think it adds weight to what we're trying to achieve for the benefit of our residents.
Thank you, and if I may just reflect on that
Subsequent question? Or, yeah.
So will the letter refer to the EPA, or will you copy in the EPA?
Through Madam Mayor, certainly happy to provide a copy of our request to the EPA also, and I'm sure Mr. Cant could also refer to perhaps the EPA requirements in the letter to strengthen it.
Thank you. And Madam Mayor, may I ask a separate question?
I have got someone else
Okay,
waiting, so
that's fine.
I can come back to you. Councillor Turnbull? You want to ask your last question? You can. Yeah.
No, you might.
Okay. Right, well, as a seconder, I'll speak to this now. Penfold Road looks like a lovely, peaceful, semi-country, rather steep road in the foothills of Wattle Park, but it's unusual because it's used daily by trucks going to and from the Borough Quarry. The northern approach carries nearly 2,000 vehicles per day, and all trucks turn left at the intersection of Stonyfield Road and Penfield Road as they go to collect their load and right after doing so. It's easy to see the route of the quarry trucks as there's always a layer of dust, mud when it rains on the road. It's a safety and health problem. This motion also asks Borough to be more mindful of the washing of the trucks as they leave the quarry premises. Trucks aren't permitted to use Stonyfield Road, it's too narrow and there's a school of 800 students there. And similarly, the quarry trucks cannot go up the narrow winding southern part of Penfold Road, so they have to go north. It should be no surprise that Penfold Road to the north is worn. Rumble strips need replacing, lines need to be remarked, and the flashing speed indicator, which was removed about 4 months ago, needs to be replaced as a matter of urgency. From the intersection, going south up the hill, watch out for the 3 trees in the middle of the road. Cars are on a daily basis of rat running, especially at peak times. The Borough staff park here at their facility, and some are always pretty keen to leave work and get home. It's quite easy to lead-footed on this narrow, steep part of the road. The average traffic flow of this little stretch is about 1,000 a day. So ideally, a roundabout at the intersection of Stonyfield Road and Penfold Road would be the best solution. But at $695,000, it's not feasible at this time. It may be when the city master plan for the COB traffic control eventuates, but this could be a long way away. This motion moves Stonyfield up the priority list to make it within 2 or 3 years. It may look relatively peaceful on the Stonyfield roads, but it certainly isn't. Of the options presented, option 4 will be an affordable measure to alleviate the situation, noting that signage, line marking upgrades and renewals, trimming the vegetation on the verges, additional signs and reinstating the flashing speed warning sign will be helpful, very helpful. So until the master plan eventuates, I hope you support this motion. Thank you.
Now, Councillor Henschke, you can ask a question.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. 2A reads, writes a letter to Boral requesting consideration of future funding commitment to a capital upgrade. Is the intent that we're asking Boral for money here, or it's just the clarity has left me confused? Thank you.
Through Madam Mayor, we are certainly asking them for a financial commitment to an upgrade.
Could you just turn your mic off? Councillor Dawes?
I don't know if I can add much more. I think Councillor Turnbull certainly put it down very clearly for us that we want Stonyfield to be raised up the priority order in consideration of the traffic precinct plans. And, whatever the reason is, I think another thing we have forgotten is that Boral have their administration centre at the southern end on the corner of Heatherbank and Penfold Road South. So they also have a lot of traffic from there. They're not trucks, but they're utes and so forth. Now, we did try chicanes before my time on Heatherbank Road, and that didn't work, and so forth. So there are some issues within Stonyfield that need to be more urgently looked at. So I'm hoping for your support.
I put the motion. Those in favour? Against? Motion's carried. Thank you. Now we move on to 11.4, Councillor Zing, Beulah Park, Kensington Park, localised traffic management, page 838.
Thanks, Mayor. I've sent an alternative motion through to Matt and the exec team just to bring up in a sec. Thank you, Mayor. I'm hoping to move an alternative motion after conversations with Councillor Davey and the local groups. This motion is hoping to trial left turns early during peak hours as to address the growing concerns related to traffic congestion and safety on Walsall Street. By restricting turns during the busiest times of the day, we can potentially reduce bottlenecks, improve traffic flow and enhance the overall safety for both drivers and families. I think it is important to also note that 90% of those that responded in the survey do support this as indicated on page 843. We're also seeking a report after the 6-month trial into key issues, areas of concern and best approach for the future. The trial will hopefully provide some insights for this idea and if it should be a long-term solution for us. I hope you'll support this trial. Thank you.
Councillor Davey, are you seconding?
Yes, I'll reserve my right to
Reserve,
speak.
okay.
Thanks, Mayor.
Councillor Dawes?
Yes, a question if I could first. Just going back to the recommendation from staff, does that mean that 1A and 1B we're not going to do, or it's, because at the moment you're only talking about 1 and 2, which doesn't mention the 1A and B. So our question is to staff, are we including, might be a question for Councillor Zing anyhow, but I don't know.
Through Madam Mayor, we'll just have to take this on face value, but maybe Councillor Zing can clarify in his closing comments.
Councillor Jones?
Can I ask a question?
Certainly.
And this is a kind of traffic expert question. But it seems to me that the people who want to turn right are going to find a way to turn right. And if it's left turn only, they'll make a beeline for the right-hand lane of the parade and they'll sit there until they can turn right into a side street and double back to turn right. And what we'll have done is shifted the traffic congestion from a minor side road to the parade, which is an arterial route. Now, that's my conjecture. I wonder if I could get a technical expert to see whether they think that's what will happen.
Yeah, through you, Madam Mayor, just get Mr Cant to provide some commentary on that one.
Through your worship, it's definitely a potential outcome. That is certainly something that could occur on an occasion. Whether everyone does that tries to turn right, I'm not sure. A trial would allow us to identify further issues that do arise through that period of time. It's one of the reasons that we are bringing in the precinct planning approach, because we need to understand what localised changes to traffic does to on a holistic precinct basis. So it could have that unintended consequence. Until we model it and look at it, we're not sure.
Anyone else wishes to speak? Councillor Davey?
Thank you. I'll speak if I may.
Yes?
Thank you. Yes, I support this. I think...
sorry, Councillor Davey, I think we just need a bit of an explanation. It's not clear about whether you're including any, according to Councillor Jones's question, whether you're including any of the other recommendations. Sorry, it was Councillor Dawes who asked the question. Yes, but Councillor Davey in seconding can discuss that if he wishes to.
I would imagine that 6-month trial will consider all of the actual issues. I mean, we've been waiting for this for 8 months now, so I think this 6-month trial now would be able to evaluate all of the conditions that exist in those really busy peak times and make some recommendations to us in accordance with those, and as well inform the residents about what's underway. So, because they'll be the ones who are most affected. I think in terms of Councillor Jones's issues that he's raised, I think some bad habits have been developed in the area where people, take shortcuts and turn inappropriately. I mean, I don't know how people turn across the parade in peak hour to get into doing a right-hand turn to get into Walsall Street. So I think this will at least identify the major issues and recommend the absolute best approach that can be undertaken to look at this area, which is heavily congested and lots of traffic at those peak times as well. So hopefully you'll support this. Thank you.
Councillor Jones?
Look, I'm going to have to vote against this. We've engaged an expert consultant who's given us an answer, and then we're saying, oh, well, we don't like that, so we're just going to do this without doing any research at all about what the consequences of this change are. And colleagues, I give you the exhibit of Hallett Road, where we changed the speed limit from 60 to 50, and it's caused utter chaos in the Burnside ward ever since. So we've had spending money on speed restrictions and painting the road on Lockwood Road. We've got complaints about people rat running down Stonyfell Road, as we've just had the motion beforehand. I don't think we should just be meddling in traffic because we decide that we're the experts, because we're not. So I have to say, I think this is just going to shift a slight problem on some side roads to an absolute disaster problem on the parade, because people who want to turn right will find a way to turn right, and they'll sit in the right-hand lane of the parade, which is an arterial route into the city, and they'll block the traffic. And that will be, one, it'll slow up far more people, and two, having queues of traffic where you've got children trying to cross to get into a school is a safety disaster waiting to happen. So that's why you should oppose this motion.
Councillor Henschke.
Thank you, Mayor. I totally agree with Councillor Jones. We, as a chamber, have a set strategy with literally policy to execute council city master plan with expert traffic engineers engaged by the administration. It's all underway, and and us trying to be traffic engineers in the chamber with suddenly suggestions for left and right-hand turns and so forth. I'm an engineer, but I would not pretend to be a traffic engineer tonight. And so I know there is a need, and I know that the council administration have it in hand, as they've said, in the officer's recommendation, to defer consideration because they're on to, they are developing the traffic precinct plan for Kensington Park in accordance with the council city master plan. So that's what we have to continue with. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Hubel.
Thank you, Your Worship. Yeah, I've at the risk of not listening to the local ward councillors, which I, as a rule, tend to defer to. It does bring to mind the situation we had in Linden Park during the last council, where as a chamber we decided to do something a bit different. Put in a no left-hand turn onto Hood Street from Devereux, and that led to some remarkable traffic problems that were unforeseen by us. So my gut does tell me that we should be going with the administration, which is informed by the traffic report, but my sympathy is with the local councillors on that.
Councillor Dawes.
Another question for administration, if I may. In the original recommendation, and it must be in the agenda paper, just to be sure about this, the traffic precinct plan for Kensington Park is due when? Is it 2+ years? I just want to get that right.
Certainly. Madam Mayor, I'll refer that to Mr Cant just for clarification.
Through Your Worship, I believe it's within the next 2 years, but let me just double check my notes. Kensington Park, when the city master plan was developed, was within 3 to 5 years. So that's approximately 2 years from now.
Councillor Hallett.
Thank you. I support Councillor Jones's position. I think that we should listen. We've paid for an expert to advise us, and they've recommended something different, but I think I would prefer to go with how the traffic experts have assessed it. I know that if I can't do a right-hand turn, I will make a left-hand turn, go up and further on, make a right-hand turn, drive around the block and come back. And I do think that there is traffic that's going over to the northern side of the parade, which is already getting quite a lot of through traffic, because if you go to Aldi, the best way to get back onto the parade or get out of Aldi is to actually go through the back way and then go up, I think it's called Orange Lane, and that's the easiest route to get out of Aldi and get onto the parade. So there's quite a lot of through traffic going there. And then what we'd be doing would be directing other traffic then around to actually take those streets in order that they can't do a right-hand turn. So I'm inclined to go with what the administration has recommended.
Councillor Corney.
Just a question, if I could. Not having to traverse this section of the parade during congestion or peak periods, does the traffic bank up this far from like Portrush Road? Yeah. It does?
When it's peak hour traffic, yes.
Might mean Lindburn Road.
No?
No, Portrush Road. Okay.
Portrush Road.
Oh, sorry, from Portrush Road.
Yes.
Okay.
Madam Mayor, I'm certainly happy to get Mr Cant to clarify.
Through Your Worship, we don't believe so. That's not what the traffic consultant identified through the council.
Thank you.
Right, next is Councillor Wilkin.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I actually won't support this. I tend to agree with the traffic engineer, the expert, and just reading the report, it's already saying that nearly all vehicles turn left onto the parade in school drop-off time in the morning and collection in the afternoon. So I think we should be cognizant of the expert examination that's been made, and I will support the council's motion. Thank you.
Councillor Zing asking a question, sorry. Councillor Zing just asking a question, I'm assuming. Councillor Zing, you just answering a question?
I do have a question. It's just been brought to my attention by my co-councillor over here on page 850. The expert did the studies on Holden Street September 7th, 2020, which is the start of COVID. We're 2024 now. So this expert study was from 4 years ago.
Question? That's not a question, that's a statement.
Is that true?
Okay, is that true? All right, thank you.
Well, through Madam Mayor, I'm assuming the reports are correct, but to be sure that we're categorically correct, I'll ask Mr. Cant.
Through your worship, you're referring to the introduction page to the consultant's report, and that's the following documents that were supplied as part of the assessment by council, which includes previous traffic survey data, which was undertaken in 2020. However, a fresh count was undertaken as part of this approach.
Thank you, Mr. Cant. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak on this matter? Otherwise, I shall go back to Councillor Zing. Councillor Zing?
Thanks, Mayor. I'm happy to vote on it.
Right, I'll put it to the vote. Those in favour? Those against? Motion is lost. And now we go back to the original motion that's on page 838, and I seek a mover. Councillor Davey, you moving this one?
I'm happy to move in accordance
Right,
with that
thank you.
recommendation. Thank you.
And I need a seconder. Oh, do you wish to, sorry, you wish to speak first? No. You're moving, okay. Seconder, Councillor Zing. Do you wish to speak now? Is there anyone who wishes to speak on the original, on this recommendation? If not, is the mover happy for me to put the motion? All right, I'll put the motion then. Those in favour? Those against? Motion is carried. Now we move to Council Member Behaviour Support Policy, Councillor Harvey, page 869.
Thank you, Mayor. I have an amendment which will come up on the screen shortly. So the amendment is that Council endorses the draft Council Member Behavioural Support Policy as presented in Attachment 2 for public consultation with the following amendments. 5.1.1, the Mayor leads with a professional and respectful example at all meetings and community interactions. 5.1.2, all council members work collaboratively to achieve successful outcomes for the benefit of the whole community. And with the removal of clause 5.1.7, we encourage humour and the lighter side of issues. So the purpose and rationale of this amendment is to differentiate clause 1 and remove clause 7. So clause 1 is the mayor or presiding member is the chair who actually drives and leads our meetings. It is not councillors who are leading our meetings. Hence, when the addition of councillors into this clause 1 was changed, it now actually doesn't make sense. It would be like saying the CEO is leading a meeting with his staff. He leads the meeting, the staff do not lead the meeting, just as councillors do not lead the council meeting. The Mayor or presiding member leads with a professional and respectful example at all meetings and community interactions. Clause 2, all members work collaboratively to achieve successful outcomes for the benefit of the whole community. This clause encompasses all members respectfully. Clause 7, the phrase "we encourage humour and the lighter side of issues" I don't believe is appropriate in council meetings. Council meetings are actually for serious decision-making, careful consideration and supporting and measured voting. It is not for humorous times, and most of the decisions we make are certainly not made lightly. Because this is a forcible policy, council members should not be put at risk in breaching this policy by not showing humour. Council members should not be obligated to use humour in meetings that are to be taken seriously. Of course, if a humorous situation presents itself, which on occasions it can and does, that is different. However, the council meeting should not be based on humour. I would like to thank administration who have worked very hard behind the scenes to assist us in this very important additional behavioural policy. They have done an amazing job pulling together further training, workshops, and I applaud them for getting us to this stage. Differences of opinions need to be respected with gracious, courteous behaviour. We were provided with facilitators and our right to have our say in this policy. I hope you will support this policy with the respectful detail that we all contributed to and presented. Thank you.
Thank you. I seek a seconder. Could you just turn your mic off, please, Councillor?
Oh, sorry.
Councillor Wilkins.
I'm happy to support. I'll reserve my right.
Councillor Zing, you wish?
I've just got a quick question, Mayor. This is an alternative motion, but I'm reading 5.15.2 is the same on 879. I'm just not sure that, just to be clear, what's on screen is correct, because the alternative is the same as the agenda paper.
Sorry, Councillor Zing, you were seconding as well as asking a question? Oh, sorry, I didn't write it down.
Through Madam Mayor, I can confirm that the motion that's before you correlates with the clauses in attachment 2.
On page 879. Councillor Davey, question?
I'd like to comment.
Oh, okay,
Into
that's
the
fine.
debate. Thank you. Thank you for your motion, Councillor Harvey. I think this reflects, as you said, we have workshopped this extensively and had briefings, undergone training sessions, and I think, I believe this example and this version of the policy is consistent with the workshops that we undertook, at which we, with mentors from Alchemy or a leading team building firm, we went through the whole of all of the desirable elements that we wanted for our behaviours and how we wanted to receive behaviours, and from the notes that were taken at the time, and from my understanding of the Local Government Act, which is that in section 58, the Mayor has particular responsibilities for leadership, And then at section 59 of the Local Government Act, we as local elected members have our distinct responsibilities under the Act. I mean, we do provide leadership as well, but the primary leadership role is the principal member. I think this reflects that, and I think these just slight adjustments that have been made mean that we can each distinguish our roles and understand our roles and work collaboratively as we do to work for our community, to do all of the work that we do, which is significant, both in meetings and out of meetings, working. The aim is for our community. I agree that 517, while we all want humour and we all enjoy a laugh, I don't think this is a really relevant part of the policy, and so I'm happy to that we delete that. But I think the first two clauses are the key ones, and I think that is a good basis for us to get our policy underway and implement it. So I hope you'll support this. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Henschke.
Thank you, Mayor. I have a question. This proposed motion refers to clause 511 and it's omitted what looks like all council members from that, from the policy. So does this mean that council members don't have to lead professionally and respectfully at meetings and community interactions because they're not mentioned anymore in section 5? Thank you. Or do we need to add a 5.1.1a or something so it specifically says council members, etc.? Thank you.
Through Madam Mayor, my initial thoughts, and I'll refer to two sections of the Act that Councillor Davey referred to. Section 59 talks about the responsibilities or the roles of members of council, which talk about acting with integrity, ensure positive constructive working relationships, recognise and support the role of principal member. And if you put those and overlay them, they provide significant guidance for the members. It's not critical to my mind that the word members is removed. The Act still provides overarching guidance.
Thank you.
Councillor Jones.
I'm not going to support this, but that's because I'm not going to support a behavioural support policy at all, whatever is in it. Look, colleagues, it's said that local government is the tier of government closest to the people, but it's also the tier of government that is most micromanaged. We already have the Local Government Act spell out in excruciating detail what our behaviours are and how they are regulated. Quite why we would then want to make a rod for our own back by adding yet more rules totally escapes me, especially rules such as these, which frankly are blatant nonsense. Look, I have breached these policies already tonight. All members work collaboratively. Well, I have failed to act collaboratively because I opposed Councillor Zing's motion. And I did that because we're a democratically elected body, and in democratic elected bodies you can have differences and you can have arguments, and the Local Government Act says you can have robust debate. So that's the total nonsense. We approach our interactions with compassion and kindness. Well, I failed there because I didn't approach my opposition to Councillor Zing with compassion and kindness. I just thought what he was proposing was a bad idea, and I said so. And is that really so bad? I can't see that it is. I just think this is a fundamentally bad idea. I see no value in it. It's going to get weaponised. We're going to spend endless hours making code of conduct complaints against people, which is a nightmare for everyone concerned. Lawyers will get involved. If you do this to me, ultimately, I'm going to start saying I have a constitutional right to freedom of political expression, and you're restricting that by saying I have to be kind. So I've got to say it's nonsense. Vote against it.
Councillor Hallett.
Thank you. I don't disagree with Councillor Jones, second time tonight, but in regard to section 5.1.1, as it reads in the policy, I didn't read the word lead as, I guess, as strictly perhaps as Councillor Harvey, because I just saw it as being that we all have a leadership role, and that is shared between elected members and the mayor. But another way of solving 5.1.1 would be to just say the mayor and all council members act in a professional or act with a professional and respectful example at all meetings and community interactions, rather than just take out the word lead. And then it applies to all of us, because all of us should be professional, respectful. I mean, you could disagree with somebody and still be respectful. And it's not, this policy isn't just about how we act with each other in council, it's how we act when we're actually out in the community as well. So I'm not against I can see the sense in not having this policy, but if we go back to it, I don't have a problem with deleting 5.1.7, and I think that there is a solution to 5.1.1 by taking out the word lead.
Thank you. Councillor Dord.
Oh, thank you, Mayor. I noticed that 7 of us did provide feedback. Only 7 of us, so that's about just over half, which I thought there would be a few more, which to me meant they were more or less happy with what we were proposing. Remember, this is for community consultation. This is not the final. This is community consultation. So the reason why I thought initially that number 1, it should be all of us, is the same as what Councillor Hallett just said, that it doesn't matter what meeting we're talking about, whether it's with residents or whatever, we do lead with a professional and respectful example. So it's not just the mayor, it's all of us. Now, if you want to just talk about council meetings, well, that would be a little bit different because the mayor is the presiding officer. I'm happy to remove number 7, encouraging humour, for the reasons that Councillor Tarby has said. And number 2, all we've done there is add the word council. In fact, that's the only change to number 2 for what we've got tonight. So there's no issue in number 2. I do prefer that we say the mayor and all council members, because I think that is so important when we interact with people outside of this meeting regularly. We only hold this meeting once a month from next month, so we should really have all of us in there. Thank you.
Just to clarify, there was a motion on the 26th of April last year that the council was to go ahead and create their own behaviour support policy, which was in addition to the one that was provided by the Local Government Act, and that's what we are complying with tonight. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak? Councillor Turnbull.
Thank you, Mayor. I agree with the first one, that Mayor leads with a professional, etc. The Mayor has a separate role from us. We keep saying we're leaders in the community. We're not really, and Councillor Dawes just said we interact, not lead. We do. We don't have to lead in the community. So the Mayor leads because she opens functions, she talks, etc., but we don't. We interact, and I think that's quite separate. So the Mayor's got a separate role from the council members, so I would support this one. Thank you.
Councillor Cornish. Oh, sorry. Councillor Davey, you're before. Councillor Cornish.
Thank you, Mayor. I just have a question. I just wonder if the CEO would mind reading out the role of members, Part 3 of the Local Government Act at Section 58, which is 1A and B, just to clarify. which is the roles of the principal member. You did refer to it earlier, and I just wondered if you wouldn't mind reading that out to the meeting. Thanks.
Certainly. Through Madam Mayor, just to clarify, section 58, subsection 1A and B, the specific roles of the principal member. So subject to this Act, the role of the principal member of a council as a leader of the council is A, to provide leadership and guidance to the council, and B, to lead the promotion of a positive and constructive working relationships among members of the council. Would you like me to go any further? No.
If you want to read section 59. The first part, I think we did before. Just the first couple of parts. That might be helpful.
Certainly. Through Madam Mayor, section 59. 1. The role of a member of a council is, Part A, as a member of the governing body of the council to act with integrity and to assure positive and constructive working relationships with the council, and to recognise and support the role of the principal member under the Act. I think they're probably the parts that pertain to the topics tonight.
Is that all you wish to ask about, Councillor Davey? All right, now Councillor Coyne.
Thank you, Worship. Some of the questions or comments made here so far tonight have sort of put my mind to how the Mayor or the responsible persons panel would actually assess some of these if someone got a code of conduct. I'm finding it a little difficult to actually work out, you know, with some of them, what that line in the sand is, what is a breach in terms of, you know, how do we know if someone's open-minded around this chamber? Like, if we get that, like, how are we actually, I think a bit more work actually needs to be done before we even finalise this and go out. I came from the different angle of, during the workshops regarding all these changes that have been suggested, and I was quite happy with the way it was in terms of its high level sort of objectives, but I do think we actually need to understand some of the different levels of behaviours and what that line in the sand is to help people around this chamber that might eventually have to make a judgment and adjudication on these behaviours if they come across any of them or they come in. So compassion and kindness, you know, Councillor Jones said it. I don't know how I'm going to judge who's more or less compassionate and kind around the chamber. It's going to be a hard thing for us to do, and I'd actually like to see us workshop a bit more of what those lines in the sands are. So we've actually got some sort of idea, if we're going down this track of having a separate policy over and above all of our legislative requirements and the mandatory behavioural standards that the Minister has set for us as well. So this is the third level of documentation that we're imposing on ourselves, which is optional, and we don't really know how we're going to implement it when it does happen. So I do have concerns with that at the moment as it stands. Thank you.
Councillor Zing.
Thanks, Mayor. Just a question for the CEO. If you could clarify to us, if there was a breach of this, what that normal timeline would be. So if it's a code of conduct goes to behavioural standards panel, or we adjudicate ourselves on a breach, like how that breach would be addressed.
Through Madam Mayor, I need some guidance from Mr. Spearman on this one.
Through the Mayor, it would go through the same process as any other breaches of the behaviour standards. So it would go under a behaviour management policy, in which case, in the first instance, depending on what the issue is, it would be internally investigated, likely by a person, well, by one of the people on that rotating panel. And they would try to, in the first instance, have the matter resolved informally, which is what the policy tries to do. If you can't get to an informal resolution, in that case, then there's other parameters where it could be escalated or it could be further investigated and so forth.
Councillor Henschke, do you wish to speak or
Yes,
ask a
speak,
question?
thank you, thank you. Yes, I agree with Councillor Cornish and Councillor Jones, and things have moved on since this motion to develop a policy was put to us several months ago. And that's okay, things can change, and I really think that in these times of austerity we really can't have the administration spending hours administering a policy which is nice to have, but those hours could be better spent on other priorities. And so we already have a framework from the state government, as Councillor Jones has elaborated, and it's quite clear there, otherwise we'll be paying two sets of lawyers, one to deal with our policy and one to deal with the state government one and their system. So I won't be supporting it.
Councillor Wilkins, you are the seconder, but you haven't spoken yet. I don't want you to lose your opportunity, and I have no one else here.
Thank you, Your Worship. Look, I believe that we are all leaders in our community. Our community voted us into this position. We are all responsible people, and we should be responsible adults in this role, whether or not we have to abide by local government legislation. I think we have to be respectful of each other's opinions. We don't always agree, and that's healthy. It leads to good debate. We are open-minded. We should respect each other's opinions and respect their point of view and consider things with what's wrong with kindness and compassion in this angry world that we're all in today? Nothing at all. And we are all actually doing our jobs when we prepare appropriately for these meetings. It's our responsibility to our ratepayers. Nothing wrong with that. And I'm happy to support this. We can have humour and the lighter side of issues. We don't need to be legislated or reminded of that. It's part of everybody's DNA to have some light humour in this world. So yes, I am happy to second Councillor Harvey's motion on this matter. Thank you.
If there's no one else wishes to speak, I will go back to Councillor Harvey.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, everybody, for your input. I can't believe some of these comments when Council has spent a lot of money doing workshops on this very issue that everybody decided was needed. Now we're getting people going wobbly. I'm quite stunned, actually. I'd like to point out and remind that every member in this chamber contributed to these behavioural changes in this policy, and they had their say, they had their democratic right to put forward what they felt was important, and it was decided on. The Mayor's leadership role, as outlined by the CEO in the policy, is significantly different to councillors. It is now time to support, as Councillor Wilkins said, being respectful, being kind, however you want to interpret that, to our fellow councillors, being businesslike in our meetings and adapt a professional, dignified approach in our endeavours. Let's not lose touch or direction as to why we were actually here. We are here for many of the same reasons. I hope you will support this motion as it is intended. We have all worked very hard alongside administration for a positive outcome. Thank you.
All those in favour? Those against? The motion is lost. Division has been called. So those who were in favour, please raise your hands. Councillor Wilkins, Davey, Zing, Turnbull and Harvey. Those against, keep your hands up please, those who voted for. Those against, Councillor Jones, Councillor Hubel, Councillor Dawes, Hallett, Cornish and Henschke.
I've asked for the call, Your Worship. I've asked for the call.
You have, thank you very much, Councillor Coyne.
I would actually only just like to move that the report be received, if that's okay.
You want to move that the report be received, right? Seconder to that motion? Councillor Hubel, are you seconding?
No.
No. Councillor Jones, are you seconding?
Second it.
All right, so we have a mover and we have a second. Do you wish to speak on it?
No, I don't wish to speak
Okay.
to it. I think I've spoken to it
All
already.
right. Sorry. Yeah, yeah.
Through Madam Mayor, I just need to clarify that it still leaves a live motion on the books. I'm assuming that Councillor Cornish may be insinuating some further actions at some point in time.
I think we probably need to debate where this is going to go at a workshop. That's...
I think you're right, there had to be some action, but I thought Councillor Cornish might have explained it in his very, very, very super brief moving of the motion, but that's fine, he doesn't have to.
I'm not saying it stops.
All right, so Councillor Davey, are you seconding?
No, I have a question, actually.
All right, I need a seconder first.
Oh.
Sorry, I did get a seconder, didn't I? Councillor Jones, sorry. Now, Councillor Davey, you can speak. Sorry, Councillor Dawes. Sorry? I just assumed you were going to. You always do.
I just wanted to note, since so much time's elapsed, we actually, I actually moved the motion that we develop this policy, and it was seconded by Councillor Dawes in April 2023. So we've had 12 months of workshops, briefings, training. I just wondered what this has cost us, if you could perhaps, without wanting to put you on the spot. People were talking about costs before. I think Councillor Henschke mentioned costs. We've invested a huge amount of this, so we're just going to abandon it.
Through Madam Mayor, a very high-level estimate might be $5,000. In terms, the motion that's before us now doesn't suggest abandonment, but it perhaps insinuates that there's something further to happen, and it may be a workshop for us to look at how we proceed further.
Councillor Dawes.
I have a question first. I want to go first of all to page, what is it, 879, where it lists the council member behaviours. Right, we can all see them listed there, not the ones that slight changes from Councillor Harvey, but the ones that were there in the recommendation. Where are they referred to in that particular policy? Where else are they? I've been trying to see, to me it's a general statement as to what we want, but where does it follow that the responsible panel will be looking at those behaviours? Where's the link between those listed on page whatever it was and anywhere else in the policy?
Through Madam Mayor, I'll draw Council's attention, or I'll describe components of Section 75F of the Local Government Act, which talks about council behaviour support policies. And the subsection 1 states, a council may prepare and adopt policies designed to support appropriate behaviour by members of the council. And then it lists the way the policy may be implemented. Sorry, I've just scrolled and lost my space. And it's designed to be combined with those sections of the Act so that, the behavioural standards for elected members and mayors as per the Act. So that's where the guidance is given that they are interrelated and would be considered by a behaviour panel.
So therefore, should we have said, my second question, Now, should we have said that those council member behaviours in 5.1, the 7 of them, should also appear under behavioural requirements in section 4, which is page 878.
Through you, Madam Mayor, no, it doesn't need to be explicitly stated because this report is being considered in the context of the motion that was moved by Councillor Davey, which specifically said, and I'll just scroll back up to it for clarity, that in accordance with section 75F, a behavioural support policy is prepared and brought back to council. So the correlation is clear.
All right, can I now speak?
Yes.
Thank you. Look, I'm the same as Councillor Harvey here. Like Jimmy, we've spent a lot of time on this. Some of us might not agree, and that's your right to not agree. However, all we're talking about, in my opinion, is one particular council behaviour. We've just got a slight difference of opinion on it. And we're respectful in our discussions. I believe a little bit differently, but I cannot agree to this being received, and all that work has gone out the window. And I seconded Councillor Davies' motion back a year ago, whenever it was, because I believe this would help us in the future. So I'll be definitely voting against it.
Does anyone else wish to speak? Councillor Jones.
Yeah, I'll speak as seconder. Councillor Hubel has helpfully found the minutes. The motion to talk about having a behavioural support policy only passed 6-4. So they were nearly half of us didn't want to have it to begin with. And yes, I turned up to the workshops to discuss it to make it less bad if it got passed, but should by no means be taken as my support for having a behavioural support policy. And I have here in front of me the Local Government Act Behavioural Code, which says things like show commitment and discharge duties conscientiously, act in a way that generates community trust and confidence in the council, act in a reasonable, just, respectful and non-discriminatory way when dealing with people, show respect for others, endeavour to establish and maintain a respectful relationship with all council members, regardless of differences of views and opinions, not bully or harass other council members. I fail to see what having a behavioural support policy adds to what is already a requirement under the Act. And some of it is just, as we've said, is just going to become very, very difficult. You know, Councillor Jones, you didn't act with compassion and kindness. Guilty as charged, my lord. And now what are you going to do about it? I just don't get it. So look, please vote in favour of this motion. And look, I'd like to see it buried forever, frankly, you know that. But I'm happy if Councillor Cornish suggests that it requires a bit more work.
Councillor Hubel.
Thank you, Worship. Look, I think the policy needs more work. This isn't a no, in my view. I think it's instead of a no, it's a not yet. We have put a lot of time into this, and I think it's been a great process that we've been through. And the fruit of our labours was compiled by the administration as the draft policy presented in the papers. But the draft policy presented in the papers is not what we were voting on. We've had a change put forward at the last minute, put on us tonight, and I'm always been very clear that an amended motion put forward during the meeting has to be bloody good to get my approval. I think this really does speak to policy on the run. We're not considering carefully and with the appropriate diligence the changes that were put forward in the amended motion tonight. So regardless of my own personal feelings supporting them or not, I don't think it's proper or appropriate for us to be making last-minute changes on the evening to something that we have together worked on for over 12 months. So I think what we would have been voting for would have been something we've all contributed to over 12 months, but make this last little change. And I don't think that's the way this policy needs to go out to the public. I believe that what we come up with needs to be unanimously supported in terms of the content, and we can choose whether to support it as a whole or not, but I don't like the idea that we are really on the fly making changes to something that's been carefully put together. So I think by accepting this, the administration I have faith in is going to continue the work. It just isn't going to be happening tonight.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak? Otherwise, Councillor Harvey.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd just like to perhaps remind and take people's minds back as to why this council member behavioural support policy was actually put in place last year, and that was because of the disruption of the voice and the anti-racism statement that was brought to council and the angst that it actually brought to many councillors. And I'd also like to say there are councillors in this room who couldn't even be bothered to turn up to these workshops that has cost council thousands of dollars. And now you're saying we need that a report be received when everybody that was present in these workshops put forward their ideas for recommendation, and now you're saying that a report be received. What short memories.
Is there anyone else who wishes to speak? Then I will go back to the original mover, Councillor Cornish.
Thank you, Worship. Quite clearly, we are still debating the content of this policy around the chamber and why it shouldn't probably go out to the community for consultation, and why I haven't killed it with this motion. I've just said that we're receiving it because I definitely think we need to all be on the same page before we put this out to the community if that's where it's going. So please support the motion that we just received the report. We can still work on the policy at a later workshop. So I do hope you support this.
I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Those against? Sorry, can you just do that? I need to do that again. Those in favour? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Those against? Division. 4, 5. Division's been called, so those who are in favour, please raise your hands. That's Councillor Henschke, Cornish, Hallett, Hubel, Jones and Wilkins. Those against, Councillor Zing, Davey, Dawes, Turnbull and Harvey. The motion was passed. So now, thank you, we will move on to 11.7, the reappointment of members of the Brownhill Creek, Keswick Creek Stormwater Board. Councillor Turnbull.
Oh, thank you, Mayor. I'll just wait for the amendment to come up, please. Would you like me to read it while it comes up?
Yes, you might as well. It's not long, so go ahead,
There's
Councillor
another
Turnbull.
bit to it too. So, part one is... Here we go.
There now.
Thank you. Approves the Nominations Committee recommendation to reappoint Judith Choate and Howard Lacey to the Brown Hill and Keswick Creek Stormwater Board for a period of 3 years. Number two, request that prior to any future reappointment of members to the Brown Hill and Keswick Creek Stormwater Board, the Nominations Committee seek applications through a competitive process for the available positions and consults constituent councils. Now, as councillor, I feel like I'm being asked to vote on recommendations where I have no information about the candidates, their performance or otherwise. I also have no information about who comprises the so-called Nominations Committee. So how am I expected to make an informed decision here? I don't feel comfortable about just giving a rubber stamp vote without any further information. And that tick box on page 882 wasn't at all helpful. We as a council maintain that we're an open and transparent council, as should be our subsidiaries. My experience on one of the subsidiaries proved not to be. There was a vacancy on a committee, it was put out to all, 13 replies, no interviews, and the position given in-house. I think we can do better. Because I'm informed that the time frame will not accommodate a new process, I will vote for this motion, but only because of part two. But it is my intention to move a future motion on notice that seeks a report on how these board appointments may be made in a better informed, democratic and open and transparent manner with input from constituent council members. Thank you.
I seek a seconder. Councillor Harvey, your support?
No, I was all right, thank you.
Okay. Councillor Jones, you wish to speak? No, it's gone again. Sorry? Oh, you're going to second. Is there anyone who wishes to speak? Councillor Turnbull, could you just turn your microphone off, please? Seconded by Councillor Harvey. Not Councillor Jones, Councillor Harvey. Right, I'm looking for somebody who wishes to speak. Councillor Davey.
Oh, thank you, Mayor. Thank you. I would have been happy to endorse the nominations, but I do support Councillor Turnbull's commitment to good governance and the fact that I'm not sure if this is a standard subsidiary of council, or we could use some more information about how the board positions are chosen and selected. And so, yes, I'm happy to support this and look forward to a motion on notice that we get some more information about this and whether we can improve the governance structures and associations with selection of these appointments. Thanks.
Councillor Jones.
I've got a question. Now, CEO, since you are both on the Owners Executive Committee and the Nominations Committee, if we pass part two, is the subsidiary just going to say, well, that's what our constitution says we can do, how we appoint board members? Bad luck, council.
First of all, Madam Mayor, I need to note that obviously I am on this committee. I can't vote, but I'll provide my thoughts. If this is a successful motion, I would have a clear direction from my council that if I am asked to be on the Nominations Committee again, I will be following the direction this motion provides. I can't speak for the other councils that are constituents, but on your behalf, I would be advocating as per this motion if it's successful.
Councillor Cornish.
I think that was asked and answered. Thank you.
Is there anyone else who wishes to speak? If not, I'm going to go back to Councillor Turnbull. And if you have anything, sorry, Councillor Harvey, if you wanted to say anything to second. Councillor Turnbull, are you happy for me to put the motion, or do you wish to add some more?
I just want to add or re-say we need to be open and transparent in all our board members. Anything at all to do with council subsidiaries needs to be open and transparent, and at the moment it's not. So I'm asking you to support this, please.
I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Against? Motion is carried. Now we have something somewhat similar in 11.8, and that was Councillor Jones. Page 887, reappointment to Burnside Warmore Hospital Board.
Thank you, Mayor. Look, guys, I'm going to move this motion because I want to register a protest vote against it rather than just go through. Because everything that Councillor Turnbull has said about Brownhill Keswick Creek applies to the Burnside Hospital. And they just endlessly reappoint themselves to the board. And I don't feel they're doing such a great job, because every person I talk to, and I say, oh, did you know Burnside Hospital's owned by the City of Burnside? And they said, what? What? I had no idea. And yet they're saying they're a community hospital, and they're saying, oh, we can't get enough punters through the doors. It's like, well, perhaps you ought to publicise that you're owned by the people of Burnside, and then you've got 47,000 people who might say, I'll go to the hospital that I own. It's quite incredible. So, look, I don't think we can, under the Constitution, say no, but I welcome Councillor Turnbull's future motion on notice, because I feel there is a strong democratic deficit in this council subsidiary, and I think we should do something about it.
I just need to say we don't actually own the hospital. We own the land and the buildings. We don't own the hospital.
We are the sole member of the company.
Am I wrong?
We own the land,
Yes.
and there's a
The business is there.
historical conditions with the bequest, but that's our relationship.
When they came to the meeting, they said, I asked them, who is your owner? And they said, you are. You appoint the directors. You are the sole member.
We will get some clarification.
We created it.
There is a constitution which governs it.
6A.3. That's the Hospital Foundation Fund.
Through Madam Mayor, I will go and clarify what I'm about to say and correct it publicly if I'm wrong, but I suspect you may be getting confused with Pineview,
Yes.
when we are absolutely the sole member. But in the hospital circumstance, we certainly own the land, and by virtue of conditions within the request, that's where our involvement comes in. But I'm happy to do some more homework and circulate a fuller answer to the lead members.
Now, Councillor Davey.
I'm happy to second the motion.
Sorry, do you wish to speak now then?
Yes. Can I just see, has there been a seconder? I am, thank you. Thank you. I have complete faith in the board. I think we've seen somewhere in the papers where they have a maximum of 3 terms, so they can't just keep on appointing themselves. They are a very astute board who've been reviewed. They're reviewed constantly. Their primary purpose is to have a mix of clinical, commercial and legal expertise, and I think they have some pretty high-level heavy hitters on the board. The chair of the board, Anne Hinton, has an unblemished record as a businesswoman, clinician and board member. I don't think we can say that the hospital is struggling. I think it's actually doing very well, and the good burgers of Burnside and beyond are very happy to go there and have their babies, their treatment, their surgeries, and such that they have amalgamated with, or I'm not quite sure what the right term is, with the Stepney branch of Burnside Stepney, which has allowed them to rationalise their surgical care and procedures. And I think they've got plans to expand in other areas and do further development. So to me, to my mind, I'm satisfied that it's a very well-run, viable business, and I'm very happy to support these 2 appointments to the board as they've been put to us for a further 3-year term, and I hope everybody else would too.
Am I going now back to the original mover, Councillor Jones? I would like to say something if there's no one else going to speak, because now is the appropriate time. I just need to say that this hospital, like all private hospitals, are struggling because of the way that the federal government provides them with compensation. So the issue is not Burnside Hospital, it is all private hospitals. And all private hospitals are having to look into account as to how they can move forward in the future. And I happen to have had quite a bit to do with the board of directors over my 15 years on council. And in support of what Councillor Davey has said, it is a very well managed organisation. And certainly I've had surgeries there most successfully. So I'll now go back to Councillor Jones.
I'll say one thing. They can be on the board for 12 years. That's a very long time, in my opinion, and I have never once seen them advertise a vacancy. So, look, I'm voting against it. If you guys want to vote for it, that's fine. I look forward to Councillor Turnbull's motion on notice.
All those in favour? Against? Motion's carried. Now, we have one more. Chief Executive Report, Councillor Davey. Councillor Hallett, can you turn your mic off? You might like to second.
Oh, did you move? I mean, someone else moved it.
That's okay.
I'm happy to move
you've
in
moved
accordance
it.
with the recommendation. I just had a couple of questions, so
Certainly.
I'm happy.
I think there's, then you can, if you spoke to me earlier, Councillor Hallett, you can second it and ask questions as well.
Thank you, Mayor. I just had a couple of questions about, to clarify a couple of issues, one of which is recruitment. On page 919, paragraph 7, we have 7 positions vacant. I'm just wondering how, for a bit of clarification about how we do our appointments. We've approved quite a while ago a youth development officer to start in July. And I'm wondering, are we recruiting that position now so that they're ready to start in July? And the same with the team member arboriculture. And are we also recruiting, delaying appointments, delaying recruiting to save money? I'm not sure why recruitment is being delayed in those other middle, for the team member parks and the urban forestry officer. And then I also don't understand with the principal traffic engineer what audit is being undertaken. If you could clarify that to us, thank you.
Certainly. Through Madam Mayor, I can clarify that the positions that are set to commence as per council resolutions in July 2024, we certainly have done the pre-work and we're advertising now, so that we'll hopefully be in a position come 1 July that they can commence rather than commence the process 1 July. The other answer to your question, are we deliberately delaying recruitment? No, we're not. We're certainly not taking part in that previous kind of policy we had where we delayed for 3 months to try and make operational savings. So I've stopped doing that because I felt that the benefit to the organisation was greater if we simply proceeded with recruitment. And with regards to the principal traffic engineer, I'll just get Mr. Cant to clarify the actions around that one.
Through your worship, I believe that question came up at a previous council meeting, and Mr Brennan actually circulated quite a detailed response via email with respect to that. We were aware of an impending resignation of the previous senior traffic officer within that team, and we've taken the opportunity to review the structure, the relevance of the position and the outcomes of what they do, and also having a look at a peer review against other councils to see how those structures are being undertaken. I've actually got a draft copy of that internal review that I've just reviewed today. So once that's been done, we'll be looking to proceed with the recruitment process of the new position. However, we do have somebody acting in that role at this time, so there is certainly no gap within the provision that's provided there just now. If you missed that previous email, I'm happy to circulate it again.
Councillor Hallett, first of all, you're willing to second the motion?
Yes.
Right, and now you can ask your questions.
Thank you. My question is very similar or the same as to Councillor Davies. And it's on page 919 and the principal traffic engineer, and it mentions about it will proceed after the audit. And is that the answer that we've just had back from? Okay. And I've got three other questions. Okay. Also on page 919 at point 7, my question is, what are psychosocial hazards?
Through Madam Mayor, essentially it's anything that's going to impact negatively on someone's psychological safety.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. And on page 921, point 15, I note that it says that the 40 zones, the rollout of the 40 zones are on track. I haven't seen them coming up my way, and I'm just wondering, are they actually on track? Because to have it all finished by the end of June seems like there's still a lot to go.
Through Madam Mayor, I'll just get Barry to give us an update on the rollout schedule.
Through your worship, I'm happy to share with all council members the full rollout schedule by email tomorrow, but yes, we are on track and we expect it to be done by June. So expect to see the signs in your area shortly.
I know they've gone right up to Kensington Gardens. They're on the northern side of Kensington Gardens, already been installed.
Okay.
Of the parade.
Yep.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Because Mile Avenue's already been done on between Mile Avenue, between the parade and Cutthroat Terrace.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. I hadn't noticed that. Then on page 922.18, it talks about a bicycle network, and I'm just wondering whether that's going to be of significant cost to council. Not the actual study, but does it have financial implications for council further down the track? I imagine it will. And if so, what year is it likely to be and how much is it likely to be?
Through Madam Mayor, I can't give definitive answers by virtue of where we're at with the consultation and the draft plan. Mr Cant and I were presented with a draft by the consultants, and it is envisaging a large number of works, but I would context that by saying some of the works and the majority are as simple as line marking. But some of the greatest gains will be reconfiguration of signalised crossings, which can be expensive. And the other treatment in some areas is the reconfiguration of roundabouts and how people enter and exit roundabouts. As part of the next steps, which we're going to put together, and when we present to council, we'll have an understanding of those costings. Anything to do with roundabouts is horrendously expensive, just in broad terms. The signalisation changes should not be quite as expensive, but will still have cost implications. The key considerations we have to take into account is whether some of these areas are on DIT-controlled roads or whether it's council-controlled infrastructure. So if it's DIT, we'll be lobbying DIT to provide funding. And also if a particular, say, signalised intersection is on a council boundary, we may also be approaching a neighbouring council. So the one I'm thinking of at the minute is Unley. I know there's one intersection there where we would approach them to seek joint funding. The short answer, sorry, I've given you a very protracted answer, but the short answer is yes, there's cost implications. It will be a multi-year approach, but always subject to our budget considerations year on year and seeking funding from external parties where possible.
Councillor Davey.
Thank you. I just have a couple more questions. Since we've approved the year-round installation of the 8-metre safety barriers in Newland Park for the baseball, I just wanted to clarify what changed that. It's not clear to me what... Are we just approving resumption of the barrier nets after the summer break, or are we approving that they will be there full-time?
Yep, so certainly happy to clarify, Madam Mayor. Let me just roll up so I've got it in front of me. At the minute, when we normally come into the winter, when we come into winter, the nets normally come down because baseball ceases and there's no possibility of baseballs going out into the traffic. The club actually have approached us seeking to essentially play baseball in the winter, and therefore for the safety of our community it's necessary to keep the nets in place. So the change is effectively they would be in place for the majority of the year.
But they'll still be up and down. Taken up and taken down.
Go up and down.
Yeah. Because they currently go up and down in the summer, or moved, retracted to the side. They're not erected the entire time. Isn't that correct,
Sorry,
Mr. Can?
just clarification, Mr. Can.
That's correct. The poles will stay in place all year round, but there'll still be condition that the nets go up immediately before and after again.
So it will not stop people accessing the oval. That's the important issue here. The poles will be there, but the nets won't be. Did you have another question,
Yes,
Councillor Davis?
thank you. A couple more. Under 2, on page 918, you met with the Deputy Premier regarding general waste and FOGO collections. And I just wondered if there's any update on legislation and progress with all of those barriers that we were having to weekly FOGO collections. If you can give us a brief update, that would be much appreciated.
To my knowledge, we haven't had any specific updates from the Premier's Department about the progress or amendment of the legislation they're proposing. But what we have seen is very positive conversations, and certainly within the waste management circles and our Dr. Phil's equivalents across councils, we're certainly very comfortable that the way we are proposing our FOGO initiative, i.e. fortnightly collection of the red bin, is currently acceptable and will not be constrained by current or proposed legislation. Yep. And the key reason being is that there's mechanisms in place for families that still require a weekly collection, should they have reason. We will certainly be encouraging the majority of our community as part of this trial to give it their best shot for a fortnightly collection. But the reason why the state government is still comfortable is because we've got provisions that allow people that require that single collection.
Exception.
The weekly collection. Thank you.
Thank you. That's very... And one final...
I've got a big long list again now, and I'll come back to you, Councillor Davey. I allowed Councillor Hallett to continue till I saw your name come on the list, so I'm going to do exactly the same thing. Now it is Councillor Jones.
So question of the CEO, please. So does this mean that we're handing over yet more of our limited open space to be hogged by organised sport yet again?
Some of that space...
And the supplementary to that would be, and what community consultation have we done to find whether the community is happy with their open space being hogged by organised sport?
council's not happy with the recommendation, you can vote against it.
And it's not about hogging, it's about use. No, they don't have exclusive use, only during the games. And they already play football there as well. Well, no, it's not exclusive. Exclusive means that for 24 hours a day, every day of the week, the fence has got a fence around it and no one can access it. That's what exclusive is. They're using it for some winter games, that's what I understand.
Sorry, Madam Mayor, I can provide a bit more clarity to my initial response. And I do apologise, I was a little bit flippant. Ms Gantz just advised me that their licence actually allows, their current licence allows them year-round access to the site, so they're actually not getting any additional access. It's something they already are entitled to, rightly or wrongly, but that's where it sits.
Councillor Wilkins.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Through you to the CEO, a motion on the upgrade of school crossings on Highway 1 at Loretto and Linden Park and also on Glen Osmond Road at Eastwood was put to the council and supported, thank you. Has there been any action from the Minister's office or any response to that upgrade required as per Kenzie Road at Marriotttville? Thank you.
Through you, Madam Mayor, I might just seek clarification from Mr Cant.
Through your worship, the emails and stroke letters were certainly sent following the council meeting and the council resolution. I'm not aware that we have received a response. However, I will take a note to absolutely check tomorrow. And if it is, we will share with all council members. And if not, we will chase a response further.
Excellent idea.
Now, Councillor Davey.
Thank you, Mayor. My question relates to a resolution of Council 2 and its progress with that, and its progress with the identification of the cause of the death of trees in Kensington Park Oval Reserve and Hazelwood Park, and the experts we had decided we would contact to get expert advice. Have we spoken to them, and do we have any preliminary idea yet of what causation might be? Thank you.
Through Madam Mayor, I'll just get Mr Cant to clarify.
Through your worship, I can absolutely assure you that we have been discussing with some of the consultants that council requested us to communicate with. I believe the council resolution called for an update through the CEO report quarterly, and I believe that's going to be scheduled for next month. We'll be providing a full update to council as part of that process. However, as advised, we are happy to provide ward councillors with an update if and when we have it prior to the preparation of that information through the CEO report.
Do you have any further questions, Councillor
Just
Davis?
a supplementary, if I may. I did put in a request to be able to attend a site visit when the experts visited, and I haven't heard back. So I just wondered if I need to formalise that in some way, or if that's possible for myself and my co-ward councillor. Thank you.
Through Madam Mayor, I'm sure it doesn't need to be formalised, but I'm sure Mr Cant will take that one.
Yep, through the worship, more than happy to arrange a site visit when we have information to share, and we'll put that invitation out there. I will say, though, that several of the consultants that you've requested us we work with are interstate. They are not flying in specifically to provide us with advice. They're looking at the samples that we prepared, and they're providing us some of the information from interstate. But anyone we can't get out on site, we'll absolutely arrange for that to happen.
All right, lots of questions. Councillor Davey, it was yours to begin with. Can I put the motion? All right, I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Those against? Carried. Now, I know that people would like to have a break, but I think I would like to move straight to the motion on notice and then end the meeting after that motion, rather than taking a 10-minute break now and then having to come back, if that's okay with everybody. So, Councillor Davey, it's your motion.
Thank you, Mayor. You've all seen my motion. that Council receives a report by the end of June which addresses and clarifies the organisational changes which have been undertaken over at least the last year to enable Council understanding of the flow of authority in the administration, how tasks are assigned, the decision-making process and who is accountable to whom, particularly in the leadership team, and receives a report as a periodic update every 6 months, covering high-level organisational staff restructuring and reporting lines and any changes to these. I'll start my time now, if I may. I've moved this way as I'm confused about the organisational structure, and I'm not talking about nominations and personalities, I'm talking about positions, because I realise to talk about actual people and staff is ultra vires. What I'm concerned about is the structure and the changes that have been made, and with the development of new positions, such as the Youth Development Officer we've just talked about, a Strategic Projects and Planning Manager, and where they sit in the organisation and how they work. I think it's a key part of our responsibilities under Section 59 to keep Council's resource allocation, expenditure and activities and the effectiveness and efficiency of these as they affect its service delivery under review. So it's with this in mind that I asked for a report to clarify how recent organisational changes, particularly possibly in the Environment and Place team, but possibly other teams, because I don't know, not being sure of who sits where, and how we ensure that service delivery levels are provided and maintained in an efficient and effective manner. Are these temporary or permanent changes? I note the details provided on delegations, thank you, which we dealt with in item 11.2, a very detailed report. However, I've had complaints made to me, and I've also noted delays in the work required to meet council resolutions, such as item 11.4 tonight, and they're usually the ones relating to traffic management and traffic assessment issues. The Beulah Park one, the Stonyfell one, and there was another one that took many, many months to resolve and to come back to us. I'm not sure if these issues are related to vacant positions, nor how long these will last. Though I note with some concern that the new group manager position for services and operations will not be effectively filled until the end of July this year, so that's another 2 months. Section 99 requires that the CEO must consult with Council to a reasonable degree when determining or changing to a significant degree the organisational structure for the staff of the Council, and has to ensure under that section that assets and resources of the Council are properly managed and maintained. I've asked for a report, an info doc, on this matter, and hasn't been forthcoming. So all I'm asking tonight is that we have clarification of how this is all working, so that we, as we undertake the budget process, know that we're allocating the right resources to the right areas, and ask for your support to receive this report. Thank you.
Is there a seconder? Councillor Harvey, are you seconding? No?
Yes, I am.
Yes.
I reserve my right.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone who wishes to speak? Councillor Dawes.
Just a question first to the CEO. When does the Group Manager of Services and Operations start? Is it late July or 1st of July? I might have the wrong date. Can you advise?
Do you have that, Mr. Cant? Can you just provide an overview for the Council why we have chosen that date and the fact that it is all about organisational continuity and deliverability? Thank you.
Through your worship, the benefit of choosing an internal applicant on this occasion has actually provided us with an opportunity to ensure that the budget delivery process was successfully completed, and also to enable senior officers at the end of the budget delivery process to take annual leave at that stage. So Rebecca Talbot, who will be stepping into the new group manager role, will actually be acting in Chris Birch's position, while Chris Birch steps into Matthew Spearman's position while they take some leave. Is that correct? Oh, sorry. They're both on leave at the time, so Rebecca Talbot will actually be stepping into the group manager role at that time. However, because she is an internal applicant, we're actually taking this opportunity to start working towards her integration into the role just now, and that's the benefit of. So while she doesn't officially start until July, we're certainly working behind the scenes with her to integrate her into it and bring her up to speed. And she started many of the planning aspects and the meetings with all the relevant staff immediately. So I can assure you that while it's mid-July she formally starts, we've got everything in place to ensure it's a successful transition.
Officially mid-July, but she's already started, as Mr. Cantor said, with some of the duties. Is there anyone who wishes to ask a question or speak? Councillor Hallett.
Yeah, it's a comment, and that's just, from my point of view, I would actually appreciate having more of an organisational chart structure available. I know we've got one, and it goes down. Yeah, we've got that, but you can't drill down, and I think it would be really helpful to have a whole picture of the organisation if you did have a more standard organisational chart. And I'm just looking at one now that I'm used to. I can understand probably why we've got what we have, because it's stopping us from just going straight too far down the line, and that you would prefer us to, approach the manager or the director of the area. I don't really need to know the names, but I would like to know what positions fit under those, and that would, I think, help too. That I couldn't then drill down and just ring up someone and say what's happening here, but it would give me a better idea of where everything fits. That's the comment.
Councillor Dawes.
Yes, first of all, I want to say for what Councillor Hallett just said, when we started in 2018, we had this huge, big double A4 sheet. I think Martin gave it to us, so we did have a huge one when we first started. I think we all got one. Paul's forgotten it, but yeah, so I think it has been done in the past. Yeah. But I do think, I do understand where Councillor Davies is coming from, but I do think an information document is the way to go here. I don't think it necessarily needs to be a report to council. I just have a word of caution here that we're here mainly for strategic reasons, not for operational. When we become involved in operational is when we have our residents and they're concerned about something, and it's either a group manager or a director that can help us, and then they will drill down to the person that should be doing it. I think some of the concern from Councillor Davey may be because we had a sudden retirement in the traffic management area, and they've been trying to fill that over the last 3 or 4 months. But I think what I'd be asking for is an information document plus this larger organisational chart that Councillor Hallett's talking about. I think that's the way to go. I don't want to drill down too much into operational matters.
It's not our role. Our role, according to the Act, is strategic. Certainly to ask questions about operational, that's not an issue. All right, Councillor Henschke.
Oh, thank you, Madam Mayor. And thank you, Councillor Dawes, because that's what I wanted to talk about as well. What the intent of this is, in that I can see that, is to understand the flow of the authority in the administration. But then when we get this, what do we do with it? And then I'm thinking, this might, really, if I was an organisational consultant, like doing a transformation of the council, this is kind of like the scope for a consultant to look at organisation redesign, etc., etc. So I'm not quite clear as Councillor Dawes said, we're here to set policy and strategy. What we could do is say we decide to, look at the option, get a report, look at the options for, council transformation in these times of austerity, and look for, recurrent savings. Let's see, $810,000 we would need to be found to get an 8% rate increase. So, consultant go out there and transform the organisation so there's a flow of authority and how tasks are assigned and the decision-making process to simplify the organisation. All of that stuff is an organisation change consultant's job. So, if that's what this is leading to, fine, but I'm just not convinced that, we should be... The wording of this, as Councillor Dawes says, really is treading on territory of a code of conduct in my mind, voting for this. So thank you, Councillor Dawes.
Councillor Harvey.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd just like to ask a question. If what Councillor Dawes was talking about that was this big and available to you when you joined council, why is it not available now?
Through Madam Mayor, I've got no issues with providing the org chart at all, and I never have. I think that's more than appropriate.
Different CEO at the time.
Sorry?
Different CEO at the time also. And maybe different reasons, and we did have a huge number of brand new people at that time. So that may have been contributory. Anyway, Councillor Turnbull.
I asked for a sheet last year, I think, about who was who in the council, and it was received. And since then we've had another one, but it does go out of date quite quickly. And so you're not really sure when you're looking at this thing on your corkboard thing in front of your desk, who's who. And I think Councillor Hallett has a valid point. I feel that I clog up the time for the senior administration people when I could be asking the same question to somebody who's a little bit less down the ranks, for example, on computing. I have to ask the person in charge of computing for how do you turn it on, not quite, but that sort of thing. And really, I could be asking somebody with on a lesser pay rate and just making sure that I'm not clogging up their time. I think I am. I think some of us are.
If I may, and I'll just respond. I appreciate the thought. I think that's lovely, but very deliberately, I actually think it's important that elected members interact with our senior staff, who can then take on their queries, and they'll farm it out. They'll farm it out to whoever we need to in the organisation. And so rest assured, it's not Matt or Ash who are doing the legwork on a lot of the requests. But I think it's important, one, because my senior staff understand acutely how to interact with elected members and provide you with the best service possible. It's actually not appropriate for my junior staff to get directly involved with elected members. For one, they're employed to do a specific task, and it's not appropriate for them to get involved with elected members on a day-to-day basis. So please rest assured that once a request comes in, even if it's sent to me, we very quickly disseminate it to the most appropriate place in the organisation to get you the best result.
Councillor Cornish.
Just a quick question, if I could, in relation to the motion that we've got and to the timing. Given the fact now we're moving to one meeting a month, and this says by the end of June, which means week 3, I presume you've only got 1 week to generate this report. Is that doable?
Through you, Madam Mayor, I might just get Mr. Spearman just to give me an idea of the timelines.
Through the Mayor, in terms of timelines, to make the next agenda, council reports needed to be drafted and with the group manager of 4 days ago. So the timeline to get a council report together to meet the agenda, then approved the way through, it's actually not possible. We would request a little bit more time.
Could I make a suggestion that perhaps we could just get, sorry, I'm just interrupting, that maybe in the interim we could just get an updated org chart, and if Councillor Davey, yeah, well, we've got that, but there is with only the one change in it at this stage, isn't it? Because we've got the one that still has Alan in it. Maybe you could get that reasonably quickly and then follow this up with it requires more time, doesn't it?
We do have a public register.
Yes, we do.
On the website that has an updated org chart.
I know.
It has a list of every single employee.
I know.
And how much they get paid.
I know, exactly. It's all there on the website.
Legally required.
Yes. All right. Did you want to have anything more to say, Councillor Cornish? Okay. Now, Councillor Harvey.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm happy to support this because as a new councillor, I would be very interested to see something like Councillor Dawes was talking about that was provided to them back in 2018, which he obviously found very useful. So perhaps that might be a good idea for those of us that are new to sort of bring us up to speed, so to speak. So I'm happy to support this. Thank you.
Councillor Davey.
I had a question. No, I'll ask a question later.
Councillor Jones.
Look, I'd like to support my fellow councillor's request, noting that in 2 clicks on the website I found this, but I don't want to be a huge burden to the administration. Is this going to take a long time to prepare?
Through Madam Mayor, no, it won't, because there haven't been that many changes.
Councillor Zing.
Thanks, Mayor. I was going to say I'll propose a small variation following on Councillor Cornish's comment about the 1 week deadline. Maybe push it back to July or August.
Can you be more specific, please? Not July or August, but...
By end of July 2024.
Seconded, Councillor Harvey, are you happy to accept that change to July 24 instead of June?
Yes, thank you.
Right, thank you. The motion now will be changed to July, by the end of July 2024. If there's no one else who wishes to speak, like to go back. Oh no, Councillor Hallett, you got a question?
Yes.
You've already spoken, so you can only ask a question. Councillor Cornish?
I do have another question, if I can. I'm presuming the only changes that this council has undertaken in the last 12 months has actually been the ones that we've approved in this chamber to change the organisation structure. So there actually are changes to service delivery in the horticultural and arboricultural space and all that sort of stuff. Like it's come to here, we've approved it. Is that correct? So we've already seen it, is what I'm asking.
Yeah, through Madam Mayor. Any new position that's come into the organisation in the last 24 months has certainly come through this chamber. And whenever I've talked about making a change to the senior exec team, I've complied with the Act and provided all members with updates onto my approach via email or infodoc.
Councillor Henschke.
Thank you. I was going to ask that question because in the CEO comment it says that if there's a significant change to the structure, the CEO has to consult with us anyway under section 99(2). So I don't believe we need number 2 receives a report, periodic update every 6 months. It just sounds like I've had administration, necessary administration. Is that correct? Because it gets done anyway. You report that to us in your CEO report. Right, so this would require a separate report. Is that correct?
Well, in essence, the second part of the motion, I would be restating something I've already informed Council of.
Right, thank you.
Councillor Davey?
Thank you. Thank you everyone for your consideration and input and questions. I certainly accept and respect, as was raised, that we deal with group managers and general managers and don't need to deal with positions lie down. We're certainly here for strategic reasons and not operational reasons. I absolutely acknowledge and respect that. But however, when things go wrong and there's a complicated matter to be addressed and a community member contacts you and says they've met with so-and-so and they've looked at this and they've looked at that and they haven't got any satisfaction, and you don't know who they're talking about, it's quite embarrassing. And they say, well, how do you not know that person? And I say, well, they're a horticultural officer or a whatever officer, road traffic officer, and I don't really need to know their names. But you should know, and you're going to get into this dialogue of who, not knowing who your own staff are. I find that quite embarrassing. And when you go to follow it up, because we often are only involved when something goes wrong and it's not resolved. Most of the time, we acknowledge things get fixed. That's just a prime example of when it's quite embarrassing to me that we don't know who all the staff are and what positions are there. The other issue is that I do recall, as Councillor Cornish said, we had a summary of new positions when we were upgrading the horticultural staff and making a couple of other arrangements in our community services. I don't recall getting any advice about the strategic projects planning manager and his role, that role. I just think it's really time that we can refresh and have an update. As an elected member, we're just going into the budget process. We're trying to be efficient. We know we've got big challenges in the budget. We're trying to be efficient and make the right allocations. I would really appreciate having the most up-to-date organisational understanding. I don't understand why it's secret. Certainly we can get the staffing, the register of salaries. But I actually asked for this, if you remember. On more than one occasion I've asked for this report in an info doc and it hasn't been forthcoming. That's why I've escalated it to council. So I'm saying that there are deficiencies in our knowledge about how things fit, and especially how things fit when we have, and I'd appreciate if you listened, that how things fit when there are staff changes and absences, because that affects service levels. So I'm just saying a report to us would be very valuable and help with our understanding and ability to work together and service our community. So hopefully you'll support this. Thank you.
Those in favour? Those against? Motion's carried. Division's been called. So those who voted in favour, please raise your hands. It's Councillor Wilkins, Davey and Zing, Councillor Harvey and Councillor Turnbull. Against, Councillor, keep your hands up please. Against was Councillor, no don't, only those who voted for, keep their hands up please. Unless you're changing your mind. Right, Councillor Henschke, these are against. Councillor Henschke, Councillor Cornish, Councillor Hallett, Councillor Dawes, Councillor Hubel and Councillor Jones, that there is a change in the result and the motion is lost. Before I close the meeting, I just want to say congratulations to the staff on that great initiative working with state government on with green industries. It was an incredible load of material that was collected on Saturday, and it was, I believe we were the biggest location in Adelaide, across the whole of Adelaide. There were different stations around different parts of Adelaide, and we collected more than anyone else. So thank you to all of those who contributed both at home and in the room. And I close the meeting at 9:15. And thank you for your patience.